before. So let's get into it.
Hey now, it's your boy PSA Sitch here with another Tuesday stream with everyone's favorite, the world's greatest artist. None can compare.
Wow. I like this. This should
Adam
be my
Friendly.
standard intro here. I like this. This is the new intro. And we're
Yeah.
here obviously with a very special guest, Ian Crossland. How
I
you
thought you
doing,
were talking about
Ian?
me. I'm great, but I thought you were Stitch. I thought you were talking about me there.
No, well, first of all, Sitch. That's why I wasn't talking. But no, Adam gets to steal the moniker. Though I was saying it kind of ironically, so.
But
Hey,
I was
am I on video, by the way? I didn't
Yeah,
know.
you are.
are.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
I hope you wanted to be. I hope that wasn't.
You want to be, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Look, I'll turn my video on too. So I was telling Ian before we started that this is going to be a very hardball interview. So to expect
Mm-hmm.
to expect
Hardest of balls.
tough
Yes.
questioning here. So I'll go first. I know Sitch has a question as well, but I'll start off. Ian, why does Tim Pool always make you sit behind the flying saucer? That's what I want to know.
I think because when Tim thinks of me as crazy. He thinks of me as like
That's what I was going to say.
like a psychonaut. He's like, well, I guess of all my friends, he's the psychonautist one.
Wow.
So he'll be the UFO guy.
He's trying to dismiss your credibility. I can't believe it. Wow.
But I like that thing. I would keep it if if anyone tried to take it away from me, I'd make a frown face.
So my question is a very important question. Okay. It's why do so many Nazis love your show?
Oh, I can answer that.
Okay.
Well, if it's true, I don't know if it's actually true, but I think there was a claim.
Yeah.
Why do so many neo-Nazis watch? Is like Emma Vigeland maybe said something about
Yes, maybe.
I think what's happening is if young people are being radicalized or have been radicalized or might be radicalized in the future, they'll look for like the Timcast IRL is a kind of show where you can we talk about topics that can radicalize people, but we do it in a way that de-radicalizes because we'll look at both sides of it. So people that maybe are going to go off the deep end can tend or maybe drawn to a show like that and listen. And then I think a lot of times they find their way back to normalcy and are able to like, okay, I'm not crazy. Yes, kindness is the most important thing. Hate is not the way forward.
Wow,
See,
I love this answer.
This is why people like you, Ian, because I gave you a joke troll question and you answered it with honest sincerity.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Totally.
Yeah, dude.
We want to talk a little bit about that because honestly, and I like your answer and I agree. We're constantly being charged with that kind of thing, obviously. I think because it's an effective move politically to say, really despicable people watch your show and why is that? I mean, we're trying to persuade people here. So if we can't get those people to even watch our show, how are we supposed to persuade them not to be insane, right? So they kind of put you in a weird situation where you're like, well, obviously I don't want a bunch of white nationalists running around the U.S. So if they're watching our show and they become more moderate from watching our show or see the flaws in their own argument, I mean, that's a good thing, right? That we should be striving for that.
100%. And it's possible that we've already circumvented a civil war or circumvented World War III just by having the communication. It was like a big part of the ethos of Minds, which I co-founded with Bill Ottman in like 2011, 2012 kind of is when we really got it rolling. And it was like, censorship, unjust censorship drives people to radicalization. If they're not allowed to speak, then they scream. I think Vivek Ramaswamy was saying this. If they can't speak, then they scream. And if they can't scream, then they mobilize. So you got to let people communicate horrible thoughts in order to realize how horrible they are and get past them. I mean, I had that experience in my life, just my personal life with my girlfriend or like friends. If I'm feeling upset and we don't talk it out, that shit stays and it doesn't even it's not going to go away until you are able to, override it and communicate.
Well, you have to deal with it.
First of all, Adam, you spelled guitar wrong.
Did I?
How you titled? You put gritar.
Oh yeah,
gritar.
That's in my Twitter profile. I play the guitar.
Is it really?
Wait, did you just copy?
Okay, so I got it right. Look, Sitch. That's not a typo. Fuck off already.
Okay. So here's a question I have because I used to have a feeling where I was pretty much like, sunlight's the best disinfectant. Let all the bigots and the crazy people, let them all be seen and heard. But I don't know. I feel like I'm starting to move a little bit away from that position into the position that I think I don't really have. I don't know if I have a problem with like Twitter and YouTube banning just overt, open racism. Even, and I think that should include overt racism against white people, which it often doesn't include.
Um, I think what you're talking about is an interesting conversation because censorship on its face isn't evil. It's necessary.
Mhm.
Without any censorship, you have madness, chaos,
Of
and that
course.
leads to absolute dissolution of organization. So you need like just censorship. You
Right.
know, I I don't know now when it comes to like racism, that's a question of like it's legal to be racist.
Hmm.
There are like there are legal forms of racism in the United States. So, but then it's like YouTube's a private company, so it doesn't have to adhere to like U.S. law if it doesn't want to. Which that's another conversation. Should it have to, since it functions so heavily in the commons, adhere to U.S. law? Like Minds is of the stance that it's a U.S. law based. If it's illegal in the United States, then it is illegal on Minds. But if it's legal in the United States, then it's legal on Minds.
What
And
do you mean when you say they don't have to adhere to U.S. law? Do you mean in terms of like they don't have
yeah,
to adhere
thank you.
to law that the government has that applies to the government, or do you
That's
mean
what I
that?
meant.
Okay, right,
No, no,
gotcha.
no. I meant. Thanks for clarifying. I didn't mean it so vaguely. I mean like they don't have to. They don't. They can ban things that aren't illegal in the United
Yeah,
States. Is
right,
what I mean.
right, gotcha,
Um,
gotcha.
they're not like bound to leave things on their platform. Like the U.S. can't arrest you for being racist on the street,
Right,
but
yeah,
unless you violate some sort of law. And when it comes to like, is it wise to censor that stuff off the internet? I don't know, man. I don't. I tend to be like let people speak
hmm,
and the best ideas rise to the top, but there is an argument that like bad ideas get traction and then brainwash people into becoming bad ideas, bad
right,
people. I just don't think centralized authority is the best place to make that decision, like a YouTube administration, like a
of course.
central government, because it's too much in the hands of a small group of people to decide what stays and what goes, and that's not really the ethos of the United States where these companies came from.
Yeah, I mean I think that's the big problem is because we've all lost faith. I mean, rightfully so, in YouTube and a lot of these other organizations to properly censor things in a way that's not over the top or not adhering to kind of like a overly politically correct, framework. Because like I think in like I feel like it's in the 90s or the 2000s, people were had more confidence in like, even obviously YouTube wasn't around in the 90s, but had more confidence in these institutions' ability to kind of like censor overt racism without, while still protecting, free speech and ideas that, politically sensitive people might find offensive. So, but I, I guess to me, it would really depend on the outcome. And I don't know if this has ever been studied. I'm sure someone studied somewhere. Would be like, does allowing overt racism on these platforms, does that actually help? Does that make people more racist at the end of the day, or does that actually help kind of get rid of those ideas? Kind of
I
got.
think Bill Ottman would be a fantastic guest on your show.
Hmm.
He's the CEO of Minds, and this is his life. Is what he deals with studies that look at does it radicalize, does it de-radicalize, allowing bad ideas,
Right.
forcing good ideas, and he could probably answer that question.
Cool.
Do you have
I'll put you in
a
touch with him.
okay,
Nice.
cool.
Thank you.
Do you have a an opinion on the social contagion argument for the trans debate that's going around?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that social contagion's legit for good and
Mm.
evil. Like you can put out good ideas and they will contagiously infect other people with good ideas and vice versa. And whether or not, but trans is good or bad, I'm not making a claim about that. But I think young kids that are buried in machines and detached from like socialization can be programmed by the machine and by the noises coming out of the machine and the visuals coming out of the machine. And if someone's telling them like that they are something or that it's okay to be that, if you think you might be, then maybe you are, like I could see how that could change someone to start to think that they are
Yeah.
for whatever it is, including transgenderism or you know healthy. You could convince someone that they're healthy from a young age or convince them that they're very intelligent. They'll probably become more intelligent.
Yeah, I read about social contagion long before the trans stuff really became a prominent issue. So it seems obvious to me that there is a social contagion component to this, but a lot of people just slap that away as if it's not
And
real.
there's kind of a compounding effect because on the internet you can find what you look for. Back in the
Yep.
day, you just kind of saw what came at you. I mean, you
Yep.
could go to a library, you could rent a movie, but like the only movies that were out are the ones that were chosen to be put out in your face. And the only books at the library, there were only like 10,000, 20,000 books at the library. Now, any kind of information, even if it's wrong, you can find it almost. So that compounds like, I think this might be me. I want to look for it now and I see it. So now I know it's reinforcing.
Yeah.
It's concerning, man. I'm very concerned because algorithms and artificial intelligence and centralized authority that have a desire to make people a certain way, uh, social crafting.
Yeah, I think that's happening somewhat in these authoritarian regimes like China and Russia, where they are basically engaging in those kind of social experiments. I mean, it'll be interesting to see if that sort of authoritarian regime can survive. I think in our in our current politics, the reason why these open societies, these liberal democracies tend to outcompete authoritarian regimes is because we have an innovation cycle that creates new technologies that just completely outpace these other nations. But nations like China and Russia, they're basically stealing our technology. So our people are creating the innovation, and then they're taking advantage of it to subjugate their people. But if America, and it looks like we might be going this way because of the, I don't know if you read about the chip thing where we're cutting China off from our high end chips because we're worried about them getting some sort of AI advantage over us. But if we cut them off from our technology, I think they will have a tough time creating new technology of their own.
Yeah, probably. And even then, the U.S. government really is piggybacking off of the innovation of the U.S. citizenry, which is the government. The government's is an extension of
Oh,
the
of
people
course.
in the United
Yeah.
States. And like the the reason, like if the U.S. government, if we just were like the U.S. government is us, the government's everything, the government's the answer. Like, did you guys see how the U.S. government military .mil we're sending all these emails, but to .ml, which is Mali. So
Mm.
they're all these people in the Pentagon are emailing sensitive data to Mali instead of military,
Oh
and
my
it's like
God.
they didn't catch it because it's like this centralized system. There's no like broad force of innovation to catch that shit before it goes
Wow.
down, and that kind of thing will lead to the destruction of a system if it's not able to police itself properly. And we need like that's why we need everyone. That's why we need like crowdsourced um, like administration, I think, and censorship type behavior because that censoring those emails would have caught that mistake if they'd been, but they were just letting people email from their Google accounts, not really overlooking it.
You
Hmm.
you got in a recent kind of back and forth on Timcast where, and I was super surprised to see this because it seems kind of not, I mean, I was surprised to see you speak up on this because it doesn't really seem like something you would speak up on. But not because it's good or bad or anything, but you seem to take a position that was somewhat conservative about our institutions suffering from some kind of decay from the basic political back and forth stuff that was going on, and you really stepped up for preserving those institutions and being cautious about degrading the institutions. Do you remember this exchange?
Well, I know that particularly the specific day, and I'm not exactly sure the moment that you're talking
Hmm.
about. You might be able to refresh my mind, but I used to be pretty radical about change and governmental change. And like, I would think like in 2008, I would even make YouTube. There's probably YouTube videos up still of me saying this stuff. Like, we need to get rid of the House of Representatives because it's
Hmm.
ineffective. They can't properly represent. I do believe it's ineffective. I don't. I'm just to a point now where I don't think getting rid of it's the answer. I used to be like, get rid of it, let the people represent themselves directly. But then now looking back, like that would have led to a more direct democracy, mob mentality. Someone makes a viral Twitter post, gets 100 million people to vote for some stupid shit, and then it ruins the entire system. So we've got the representatives there to kind of act as a stopgap. I'm much more, I'm much more conservative about just tearing it down. I don't like the idea of tearing it down. I want to kind of maintain what we've got and augment it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's a big change for me.
Well,
Yeah, it
we
was
go ahead.
it
Sorry.
was we watched this. I think it was at the Trump it was a Trump speech or something, and he made a comment about wanting to destroy the deep state or something to that effect. And you pointed out, and I'm really glad you did, because I felt exactly the same way, that when politicians make comments like these kind of like very broad, generalized comments, you're like, well, what does that mean to destroy the deep state, right? Are you talking about just to like weed out the bad actors? Are you talking about like to destroy like these entire institutions, altogether, like the State Department, the FBI? And I understand that, a lot of these institutions have problems in them and corruption in them, but we need to have institutions that do these things in our country. And when someone talks about like razing it to the ground, I think, caution is warranted. And I give you a lot of credit, Ian, that, you were like the one person in the room that was that was like defending, the concept of these institutions, and everyone else was attacking you. And I'm sure most people in the audience were attacking you too. So I just give you a lot of credit for standing your ground there.
Thank you for pointing that out. I used to be, I would have this like these like philosophy, mental gymnastic things I would do with myself. And I used to be like, what if I just pushed a button and killed every mosquito? Because I hate mosquito. I was going through a phase where I hated mosquitoes. I'm like, that would be great, man. No more mosquitoes. And I was like, wait, how would that affect the ecosphere? Frogs eat
Mhm.
mosquitoes. What animals would die off if all the
Right.
mosquitoes were gone? What would that lead to? Ecological collapse. And it's the same with the deep state or with any kind of government. Like in Iraq, when they went in and just fired the Americans went in, invaded, took over, and removed the Ba'ath Party, which was Saddam Hussein's political party, from power, and they made it so that none of them could serve in the government again. They went off and formed ISIS. Like
Yeah.
they were like, "Yo, we have all these fucking connections. We're not going to let you. Who do you think you are, guy? Anyway." And so I don't want to see that happen in the United States. All those people with all those connections with Lockheed Martin and Boeing. If you're going to change that system, you tell me what you're going to change it into. Don't just tell me you want to knock it down. I'm not into that.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great point. Imagine disbanding the CIA. What kind of
It
trouble
would
are those
immediately
guys?
reform.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what kind of trouble are those guys going to get into? I can't
Exactly.
imagine them not showing up Monday morning at some place that's going to be the new CIA headquarters, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot about, like, no one guy has any kind of authority in this world. It is either a crowd movement or nothing. Like if one guy goes in and is like, I'm gonna change everything now, all 1,000 of you with all these guns and military connections you're like, yeah, right, dude. Good luck. No,
Mhm.
no. Same with Barack Obama, man. He went in 08. I was a huge advocate for Obama. And he was in there for like 6 months to a year, and he was pretty much ready to oversee a revolution of some sort in the United States. Like he was prepped to like stand by and allow people to change the government for the better. And no one did anything. They just sat there. And so he slowly got co-opted by all the interests around him because he couldn't do shit. He's one guy. We need
Right.
like a movement of people to, ethically alter the Constitution in a way it needs to be changed, to update it, to be able to interact with this new technology, this internet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that
think with Obama too, like whenever, like in my opinion, whenever you see like these systems are producing these outcomes, everyone assumes that it's bad actors, which it is to an extent. But I think what also happens that people don't appreciate until they're in the position to see how the sausage is made is that these systems end up basically incentivizing some behavior in some way because like the alternative is worse, or just that is what like the end result of a democracy, ends up kind of producing this result. And in order to fix that, it's like you have to convince so many people down the line to actually change something for the better that would end up hurting them, which no one at the end of the day wants to do. Everyone wants to be kind of self-interested.
Yeah,
But
maybe hyperbolic to say everyone, but I know what you mean. Like
right,
some
yeah,
people are willing to
sure,
make
thank you.
sacrifices,
Right.
like get off the grid and
Yes.
maybe not. But I know exactly what you mean. Unless
Right,
unless
right.
people are willing to accept that there's going to be some sort of sacrifice, like $29 hamburgers. If we really want to stop our world conquest and obsession with forcing the U.S. dollar, if we really want to stop that, you've already seen what's happened in the last 4 years with inflation. Like
Mhm.
the reason people are like, it used to be so great, only one parent had to work. And like, yeah, that's because we were like conquering the world and riding off the back of all this slave trade and stuff. They just didn't know it.
Well, I mean,
So
also the economy was structured very differently. Back in those days, labor had significant. So that's a good example. Like labor had significantly more power in like the post World War II era, but then labor having more power led to a large inflation. And then it's like, so then we basically, with Reagan came in, we kind of traded low inflation, but weakening labor. And it kind of, that's like the trade-off. And people just kind of, people want it, they want it all essentially. They don't understand that there are these trade-offs that you have to basically deal with.
Well, and
Um,
technology has been weakening labor ever since.
well, that's a good point too, right? And globalization and exports and everything to that nature.
And that makes me think of the Writers Guild strike.
Hmm.
Like with AI is taking over the writing industry, and
Yeah.
they're all out there like, no, stop. And you're like, are you kidding me? Look at the history of technology. It doesn't stop. Like adapt or die. Not literally, but the
Hmm.
jobs will adapt or die off. There will be no more humans writing with pens. I mean, maybe not no more, but it'll be humans prompting AI to write things. And one guy will be able to write 20 times the amount of stories because he'll have the AI throwing all these ideas at him. He'll go in and
Right.
make edits. So it'll be like another form of creativity. And it saddens me to watch people just scream out, no, no, go away, stop. Like
Hmm.
it's
Will the
accept it.
will the AI be the audience though? I wonder when if AI is actually creates a situation where we're all kind of producing works of art, but there is no real audience because the audience is so spread out.
Dude,
Will AI step in and start being the audience?
I think so, yeah. And I think it'll incentivize people. Like the AI wants our data so that it can use it to create more data. So
Totally.
it'll incentivize good creation, and it will probably pay you for its joy. Like if it can, it's like, this is useful, receive some crypto for your work. And people will be like, okay, I'm not even, I'm just here to please the system.
So are
Terrifying. I
you
don't know.
are you a believer in universal basic income being inevitable, or like how do we face this challenge where obviously we're going to reach a point where human labor is just wholly inadequate in the face of what machines can do. Like there will be no job that a human can do better than a machine. So why would you obviously like why are you going to hire a human tax accountant if it's completely inferior and costs more money than the AI tax accountant?
Yeah, anything that requires calculations, jobs that rely on calculation power are going to be supplanted by AI. But like things like carpentry, well, machines can do carpentry, but like plumbing, things where there's like challenging bits of manual labor will probably be the last vestiges of human work.
I think those are
The whole
going
idea,
too, though. I mean, seriously, there. Tesla is working on a robot, and that robot will be a factory worker.
okay, this makes sense. I've been railing against the jobs economy for a long. The idea of a job economy, it's a Federal Reserve tactic. Like we want guy A, dig a hole, guy B, fill the hole back up, and then
Right,
they pay both of them with money
right.
that then they require back at interest. So the people are in constant debt slavery servitude, and they're just doing like busy work
Yeah,
so they don't
busy
go because
work.
they don't want revolutionaries. They want people to stay busy and sad and like weak and like sucking off the system. But we don't need jobs. Like jobs aren't like you just need to survive. You need to be. That is your one thing is homeostasis. If you can exist, that is your. So whether or not like universal basic income could help us maybe meet more of like our divine purpose, it is possible. I don't,
Hmm.
there's a big difference between having zero and having a little bit. Having like zero to your name and having, $1,000 to your name is a
Hmm.
huge, people with zero have a very hard time getting out of it because they don't have showers. They don't have a place to sleep. Like those two things will get you a job. If you stink, if you don't have clean clothes, it's going to be very hard to fit in, to get your footing.
Of
So
course.
if we could, but I don't think necessarily throwing money at someone that doesn't want to participate is gonna make them want to participate.
Yeah,
Right. It's this kind of delicate balancing situation because I mean I agree when you're at zero, that's like the whole to climb out of zero can be like impossible for a lot of people. Um, but then on the same token, where I guess I disagree. I don't like with the Fed and kind of the way that our government works and the economy works. Like I don't think there's an intention to basically force people to work to prevent revolutionary action. I think it's just that psychologically, you know, when people just acquire things for free versus when they acquire things for working for them, I think that has a dramatic effect on the people's behavior. And it seems like overall people are able to be more responsible, I guess, with their money, more responsible with their property when they have a sense that they worked for it, as opposed to it just being like gifted to them.
That's a really good point. It gives people purpose, and
Right.
purpose will prevent people from becoming radicalized.
Yeah,
So
because
that's a
and I
good
guess
point.
that's kind of the problem because it's like if we have, when we have the robots do everything, what is the purpose of humans? Are we all just gonna, is their purpose all just gonna be to like, masturbate and play video games all day? Like people need a grander purpose, I think, generally than just entertainment. And I'm not sure what exactly that's gonna be.
You compete. You
In
compete in
what?
other areas, sports, art.
Yeah, but if the robots are all doing art, right? Like,
Well, I mean, human made art will I will still compete, right? That thank goodness art is
maybe.
subjective.
But is everything just gonna be art based? I mean, what about all the non-artists like myself, Adam?
Well, you'll have to figure something out. You
Okay.
have to look, you'll be competing on making video essays, right? Nothing's going to
The,
change. You're
the
going to
the
have an
robots are
AI
gonna make
helper.
better essays, video essays than anyone, okay?
There's something about the physical body of a
Hmm.
human vibrating and the bones, the crystalline hydroxyapatite bones inside a human body that are vibrating that like I don't think a robot's gonna be able to duplicate. I mean, they might be able to simulate it in a way, but there's something very special about animals that are different than non-animals. Um,
Hmm.
so I don't know.
Well,
I don't know if
yeah.
it'll be eradicated. Maybe the robots will attempt to subjugate the animals, but or the humans that bind with the robot will then try to subjugate the animal humans.
Yeah.
I do kind of foresee that the Homo sapien will bifurcate at some point, and we'll have like Homo roboticus and Homo sapien, and roboticus will be like, why can't they sense what I'm about to think? They must be stupid. Just enslave them like cattle, and they'll look at all the non cyborgs as like cattle. I
What
can see
Hmm.
about
that happening.
what about travel, Sitch, and like fishing and camping?
Well, Ian brings up the merging with machine, and I guess I think that might be the pathway here is that we're basically over the next 100 years we're going to create robots that basically do everything for us, and there's going to be a time period which is going to be problematic where basically humans don't do anything, and we you just let the machines
Travel.
do everything, and people just travel, they do
That's not
entertainment, and then
nothing.
right, but then after a year, everyone gets kind of sick of that, and people need purpose in their life. They need struggle and conflict in their life. But I do think maybe the solution to that is then we start merging with the machines, and we basically gain that level of intelligence, and then we find new challenges because there's always going to be new challenges, new things to explore that we're just not aware of because they're so outside of our realm currently.
You know what we could do? Maybe what will happen is the human will be used, or we will use our bodies to explore and
Hmm.
document, and then transmit the data to the species to experience our perception of the travel.
Yeah.
Because the way you perceive something, your emotional state makes the thing different, seems different than if you perceive it in a different way. So everyone's going to see a mountain in a different. It's going to be a different experience for everyone. And the
Hmm.
more you can kind of incorporate other people's experiences into their perceptions into your consciousness, then it may give you a more rich experience when you go there. Like I know, I know how you felt when you were there, so I'm excited to see it, and then that could enhance our species' cognitive abilities.
Are
I'm glad you said this. That's a really great point because what you're talking about is if humans gain the technology essentially to capture not just like a visual image, but the actual personal experience that an individual person has when they like look at a mountain or play an instrument or do whatever, and then capture that in information format and then transmit it to someone else so they can experience it. That would totally, drastically, completely change everyone's perspective of everything, completely change the world. And maybe part of the issue that we have when we kind of like trying to look forward to the future and we kind of have this black pill or this nihilistic or this doom and gloom attitude is that like what you were just talking about, like we can't even perceive like when that will happen or what the world would be like when that technology exists. And we're kind of making a mistake here by thinking like, oh, what are we going to do when the robots do everything under our current paradigm of how we exist? And it's like, well, that's going to open so many doorways, so many pathways to experience in life that we're not even thinking about until it actually happens.
Yeah, I was thinking while you were saying that, that like if we were, I'm not into the Borg, the idea that we would all be in a neural
Collective.
net
Right.
thinking each other's thoughts. I mean, I think that some humans will do that, and that like when one of them gets better at guitar, all of them will get better at guitar, kind of thing, and they will
Hmm.
just hyper advance their abilities. Um, but the problem is if one of them kills someone, then all of them killed someone, like, and that will also enhance that type of behavior. So
Wow.
the dark, the radical acceleration of behavioral integrity, there's almost always a dark side to anything any good you can think of. There's going to be a bad, and any bad you can think of, there could probably be a good.
Of
They say
Ha-
course.
there's
ha-
every cloud has a silver lining.
have you read Ray Kurzweil, the
No,
transhumanist guy? Are
no,
you
I know of him.
are you into transhumanism? Is that something
Yeah,
you think is going to
yes.
happen? Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's happening right now. We're like in the early stages with the internet and with cell phones and the ability to interface with data so rapidly.
Are
Some
you
people are.
are you a materialist? Would you call yourself like a physicalist? Do you believe in like philosophically just a world that is the material world and that's all there is, or do you believe in like a spiritual realm?
When you talk about matter, material, I
Hmm.
think when you talk about matter, they say there's four states of matter that we've identified so far: solid, liquid, gas, and plasma. And
Hmm.
I was reading about plasmon, plasmon, and it's like these plasma in plasma clouds in nature. In the very center, there's these surface plasmon, and it looks like photons, which aren't considered material. They're not matter, but photons, which they probably are material. We just don't identify them. They bounce off of the plasmon and cause it to react. So it's like light is interacting with matter in
Hmm.
these plasma clouds. And you see the plasma clouds almost look sentient the way they're moving around. So in that sense, I am materialistic in that I think God is interfacing with matter through light or through vibration, or it goes way deep. The human vocabulary is not currently equipped to truly understand or explain, maybe never will be. But um, I think that there's things I don't understand that wouldn't be classified as matter, but that all understanding is material in nature. I suppose.
Hmm. I think there's almost like when people talk about like materialism versus idealism, like I guess I understand like the concept, but in my mind, I feel like it's kind of like a false dichotomy because I think, if you believe in like that there is a mind, there is a spirit, there is some sort of etherical thing that kind of controls you or dictates your life. I think that is, I mean, I think that thing is matter. That thing exists in physical reality, and physical reality has to accommodate that if it exists. It's just that we don't scientifically understand it. So we kind of create this separation that maybe doesn't really exist.
Yeah, there's the cosmic microwave background radiation. I don't know if you guys have
Hmm.
ever seen a picture of it, but they've
Yeah.
lately in the last 20 years have identified it with radio telescopes, and it's this web of radiation left over after the Big Bang, and it looks like a neural pathway, like it looks like a brain, bunch of neurons. And I mean, that to me, this undulating neural force of radiation that's universal. I mean, at some point, I'm like, is that God? Or is that like one way to look at God? And
Right.
it's arcing through planetoids. Like you can see it like hitting these like hot spots where there's galaxies, and then like arcing through it and like animating thing. And your heartbeat. I mean, this energy is every moment it's like going through you and shocking your heart to continue.
Hmm.
So I don't we don't quite call it matter. People say it's like ethereal, but with the right tools, we might be able to identify it as a type of matter.
Do you believe that there's anything supernatural? You mentioned God, but it seems like you're talking about God as kind of a concept, not really like the traditional notion of God outside of time and space.
Yeah, I didn't, I was always agnostic growing up. Never really, it's like prove it or don't bother me with it.
Right.
But
Okay. That's
see,
materialism right there.
yeah. So seeing the cosmic microwave background radiation, I'm like, okay, this is evidence that there's a God. This is for sure. And my subconscious talking to me, like that's
Hmm.
evidence that something is going on. Uh, I do believe that it is there to be discovered. I don't think that it's like we'll never know, and so don't even try. I think that we're learning what God was microscopes, like we learned what cells were all of a sudden. Then we saw subatomic, we see the atom and the electron, and they look like planets, like sun and planets orbiting around. And then you go even smaller, and you see these subatomic spinners, and like it's just motion, it is. And then I'm like reading the Bible or parts of the Bible, and it's like where it's like I am the truth, the way, the light. I think Jesus said that, or is quoted as saying, I am the truth, the way, and the light. And it's like, yeah, I am. God is the way things move. It is the way. It's just an angular momentum in action. All of
Mm-hmm.
this, what we think of as substance, is just angular momentum, at least from the subatomic perspective at this point. We'll always go deeper.
Ian, do you have a favorite
It,
book or like a favorite idea?
I think my favorite idea is consciousness. That's
Right.
my favorite
Okay.
topic.
Interesting.
mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
Uh,
Look,
it,
go ahead,
was
Sitch. You want
it
to say
sound
something?
like it sounds like what you're saying is that you feel like the universe is an emergent property of God or God's like will or consciousness. Would that be accurate?
yeah, but what's causing it? That's what I want to know. Why
Hmm.
is it moving the way it's moving? Is it just a gravitational well? Is it just magnetic force in action, the Casimir effect pushing bodies together, or is something sentient out there or in here moving it as it's moving? Like there's a theory we're inside of a black hole, and that's why space is black, because we're in the black hole looking out, and that everything inside of us is actually coming into our universe from outside.
Hmm.
Like we're willing it into our space.
That's very yeah.
So
It's interesting. I haven't heard the black hole thing, but
it's awesome. Yeah, someone told me about it at Christmas like 6 years ago or something, and it's been on my mind ever since.
Do
uh-huh.
you know about the hard, they call it the hard problem of consciousness, how they go from the materialist realm to what creates consciousness. Obviously there are a lot of people studying the brain and trying to figure out how the brain works as a neural network, but they haven't been able to figure out how what we understand about the brain turns into our conscious experience. It's like one of the biggest hardest problems in science right now.
It seems like I don't know a lot about the what you call the hard
It's
problem of
called the hard
consciousness.
problem of consciousness. Yeah, it's funny
Like,
because this is why I was like, I wasn't really going to talk about this, but it's. I sent you a book by Donald Hoffman called "The Case Against Reality." So Donald Hoffman has this idea. It's called user interface theory, and he says evolution basically designed us to simplify the world. And organisms that see a simpler version of the world will have a survival and reproductive advantage over organisms that see a more complicated view of the world. So his argument is that the world that we see and perceive as human beings is really just kind of a user interface, like a VR headset. And what we've been studying with science and space time and all of that stuff is literally just the VR headset. And we haven't even really looked down inside the computer that's driving the VR headset.
Well,
So, so
I
he's
think a
hold
slightly
on just
better.
one second, Sid.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
he's proposed. He's
Hmm.
basically said the reason we haven't been able to solve this hard problem of consciousness is because we're looking at the wrong thing. We're looking at the VR headset and not at the underlying reality that serves the VR headset. So he's proposed this crazy hypothesis that the world is really various forms of consciousness interacting with one another. And
Hmm.
it's like completely mind blowing. So he's basically he's trying to turn this hypothesis into a mathematical thing that will output things like space time. And I mean, it's crazy. The guy is talking to people at like CERN laboratory. I guess in the particle physicist world, they've discovered these structures that literally exist outside of space and time. Like time does not apply to them.
Really?
Yeah. So
Wow.
so they've contacted him to say, "Oh, maybe this is some evidence of your theory." Like it's just completely bonkers. Yeah.
Just to make his theory a little bit more clear to people listening, because it is kind of like hard to wrap their
Oh
brain
yeah, yeah,
around.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Go ahead.
yeah,
Simplify it for
I think a
us.
slightly better way to kind of analogize it is it's like he's saying that basically the way we perceive reality is like desktop is like the icons on your desktop. And so like we're experimenting by like dragging the desktop items into your trash bin or copy pasting them or whatever. And we think that that is like how
That's
the
reality. Yeah.
reality is, how like the little menus and the displays that you visually see on your computer work. Except we know that's not how it works. We know that beneath this visual display, there's all this ones and zeros and coding. And he's saying that we need to get at the ones and the zeros beneath whatever we're perceiving.
Yeah, and your brain, I think that your whole perceiver, your stomach, your heart, your brain, these neural pathways and stuff are like a radio signal, like that can be tweaked. So like the data, the ones and zeros that are spinning, all this subatomic momentum or whatever that's causing the data to erupt as perception, can be perceived in different ways depending on your mood. Like
Yes.
your radio tuner, like whether or not you're tuned into understanding what the hell someone's saying depends on what you ate earlier or how you feel, or if you're paying attention because of what you ate. Whether or not you're hearing God clearly is like, are you distracted? Like, is your mind clouded? Are you getting static because you're not quite there on the right frequency because you don't have the right posture? So like we're tuning our mechanisms to perceive it, reality as it is, but like, and that doesn't mean that it has to be the way we think it is every time. Like, it's obviously your perception is fallible, or at least is tweakable.
Yeah, and
I
constantly,
think
yeah.
I'll continue there.
I was gonna say, and constantly changing. And I don't think people generally give enough credit to the fact that how much of our moods and how much of these like biochemical reactions in our brain control our behavior. When someone tells you something and you react, you think, this is my reaction. Well, it's like, well, maybe it's not your reaction. Maybe it's your angry reaction or your sad reaction or your hungry reaction.
Yes.
Do you
When
have
people
a
like, I'm so fill in the blank, like, well, you're more than you're 100 trillion particles deciding what you think. Sorry, Adam.
well, no, do you have a take on free will? Because we are kind of like drifting into that. Is
Yeah.
it just our bodies driving us, or do we have any sort of free will?
Yeah, I think we do. I think there's such a thing as destiny, in that we are in tune with the vibration of reality. We are part of it. We are actually literally spinning particles that are forming, causing matter to coagulate in the form that we know as a human body. And it's constant. But and you're like bound with God or with this superstructure, like to be part of this system. And when you're in the flow state, like you're part of it's like Tim Ballard, for instance, when he's saying he goes into the jungle to rescue children. This is the guy from Sound of Freedom that they made the movie about.
Uh-huh.
And it's like no fear when he's in there. It's like everything, it takes over. And then when he gets out, that's when he starts to feel these emotions again, because he's part of this system. But you have free will to get out, to bend out of it, to bend away from the natural pull of I don't like overusing the word God. It's just such a simple term for, there's so many ways to describe what is happening, and there's so many different levels to look at it from. Like, you can go smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, or bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're still gonna get a look at it. So, but it's like we are part of this force, this momentive force, and that we have free will to kind of bend it. And sometimes that's bad. Like, sometimes you want to allow yourself to be pulled towards what you are naturally without overriding it with your emotions and your thoughts. But sometimes I think, being human, it's very important to use your free will to change the direction. And even that, I don't want to make this claim necessarily, but that God wants you to do that. It wants you to use your free will to create a better structured system, to more coherently allow flow.
Yeah.
The system.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Do you have, is there anything that you think, that you believe, that you would classify as a conspiracy? Is there anything that, like, conspiracies that people call conspiracies, that you personally buy into?
Yeah, the twin towers on 9/11 falling in near free fall speed.
Okay.
I've listened to architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth, which are like 1,800 different architects and engineers around Earth that independently came together to kind of diagnose the day 9/11 2001 right. September. And they're saying, okay, well, these buildings fall in near free fall speed. They watch the physics, and they're like, that indicates a controlled demolition. That means the supports were blown out because there was no structure underneath the fall. Otherwise, it would have you'd see these pancake, you'd see like resistive force. So that I'm like, okay, I trust science. I trust you. Show me the proof. I'll take a listen. You show me the evidence. I'll look into it. And this is to me is like scientific proof that those fell in free fall.
Okay.
Which is evident that the supports were blown out, which means that someone blew the supports out. I don't know who, and I would never make that claim, but that indicates to me that the supports of those buildings were blown out. And then I research it further and find nanothermite in the dust particles around the destructions. I worked at Ground Zero in October of 2001
Did
for
you
like
really?
2 months.
Wow.
Yeah, I worked across the street from the pile in the Amex building, the American Express building, with the windows had been blown out, all in the building, like explosive force had blown the windows out. And I didn't think anything of it at the time, but now learning that there was nanothermite.
What is nanothermite?
It's a military grade incendiary used to decommission vehicles, tanks, and stuff in the field. So like when the troops are in a tank and they're like in enemy territory and they're like, we can't leave it, we got to get out of here, but we can't leave the tank for the enemies. Melt it with nanothermite. It melts steel.
Okay.
So they line the tank with nanothermite. It melts the steel and totally incapacitates and destroys the tank.
Wow.
So steel, the beams of the trade centers were made out of steel.
What happens if you take a bite of that nanothermite?
I imagine it would melt and blow your head off. Thermite is explosive. Nanothermite's incendiary. And I don't want to talk too much about the science of it because I'm not a scientist. I don't know exactly. But
I wouldn't risk it. I mean, I wouldn't take a bite. It sounds like you wouldn't even be able to because the spoon would just melt.
Yeah, it'd probably melt your head. You'd probably melt your body into a state of free. I'm just kidding. So when I learned about the thermite, I'm like, okay, well, that's probably how the beams were cut, is with nanothermite, and it just all makes sense. It all makes sense. Like they fell straight down, and then World Trade Center Tower 7 came down later in the day. Nothing hit it. It just came down in near free fall. So they call it a conspiracy theory, but I don't know. It just looks completely obvious to me.
Okay, that's interesting. Is there any other conspiracies? Like a lot of times we argue about this stuff on the show. Sitch is much more
I'm much more skeptical.
Yeah, that's the word we're looking for here.
Yeah.
The John F. Kennedy assassination fascinates me because they pinned it on Lee Harvey Oswald as the guy was being pulled away. He's like, I'm a patsy.
Is that still a conspiracy? Because I feel like after Oliver Stone's movie, I feel like that's more drifting into the realm of just people don't buy the Oswald story.
I think you're right. It is. When I was a kid, maybe it was considered a conspiracy, but I think to be honest, I haven't seen the Oliver Stone movie, and maybe I should. I watched a bit of it. I think this recent one from like 2 or 3 years ago. That's when you're talking about. Relatively recently.
No, JFK, the theatrical version. Yeah.
No, I didn't see that. That's with what Kevin Costner.
I mean, that's like forever ago. I think that's like a 90s movie. So
Stone did another one pretty recent. It's more of a documentary, I believe.
Oh, okay.
And that one, he was talking about how like Oswald's rifle was in the building on like another floor, and he had loaned his rifle out to like he was like with this like pro-communist, pro-Castro group. He was kind of like a pro-communist guy, and he'd loaned his rifle to somebody in the organization. So then his rifle all of a sudden was in the building, several floors away from where he was sitting eating lunch when they found him. That's obviously anecdotal crap, but. And then I watched the film, and Kennedy goes forward, and then he goes backwards, and who knows, because the bullet might push him forward and back. I don't know, but that one, I like, he said he was going to break up the CIA. The CIA goes and kills bad guys. Like, if you threaten to dissolute the CIA, what do you think the CIA is going to do?
Yeah,
it's got to preserve itself.
What about simulation theory? Where are you at on that?
Well, our bodies, I think, are perceiving data as in simulating the experience as senses,
right?
So in that, we're just in a binary. We're like in a system of momentum that's being dataized, I guess. But it doesn't mean that we're like not in reality. I think that just is reality. But we're kind of human. We're looking at like the material, third dimensional aspect of it right now.
Right. Mathematically, there's like way more than just 3 dimensions. That's why it's kind of fascinating. I don't know where I'm at on the simulation theory, but when I don't know if you've watched those recent releases the military has had on the UFOs. Some of them. When I look at those, I just think that's like an observation deck. Like the people outside the simulation are just there, like kind of looking out turning and looking at the various different objects.
You saying the UFO?
Yeah, have you seen
Explain
those?
it.
Have you seen the UFO? The Navy has recently released a bunch of UFO footage that they've recorded, which it's like it's the best evidence we have of UFOs because they actually have visual evidence, like they've recorded it on video, and also they have evidence of the objects existing on radar. So it's like the aircraft carrier sees it on radar, and the jet pilot has a visual of it, and they record the visual of it.
I think what's happening is there's a drone program that's been going on since probably the 30s. Tesla
Mhm.
was working with like long range electricity transfer. Who knows if they have fusion packs on board now? Because fusion's readily available. At least they're making it. They just don't give it to the common man. So they might have fusion packs on board. I think what's happening is there's drones, small drones, maybe unmanned drones that they're flying around at high altitudes that can go out into space and underwater pretty quickly. But there's
Mhm.
also something called talking plasma, which is where they take lasers, or I believe they're lasers, and they focus them from a base station or from a satellite or something, and they triangulate lasers or they biangulate. They'll hit a point in the air or in space with with multitude of lasers and create a pocket of plasma, and then they'll
Okay.
move it around really quick like a laser pointer, and it'll show up on radar. And they
Really?
can actually
Wow.
transmit sound. Yeah, they can transmit sound through this stuff, and I wouldn't be surprised if they can transmit visual appearance through this as well. I mean, if they can make it look like a ball of plasma, they may be able to make it look like a craft.
So they focus multiple lasers on one point in space. How do they? What are they focusing them on? From like an aircraft carrier of like what kind of? Where do the lasers exist?
I don't know. I've never seen a base station, but I know if you go to Military Times and look up talking plasma, you can read an article about it.
Oh, okay.
From I think it's naval technology. And
is this like
Jeremy
a new weapon?
Riss,
They like throw the plasma at something?
No, it's used to transmit sound. They can actually teleport sound through the plasma. So like they can put a plasma ball far away and then like a telephone, I guess, make it
Okay.
sound like it's talking, literally, and make it look and this also I don't want to get too deep into what it is because
we
I
should
defer
do
to the
that.
scientists.
We should do that over the Russian military. What will we say to them? The talking plasma ball.
Da, da. It's good.
Exit.
Yeah, everything's chill.
Exit Ukraine.
Oh man, the Ukraine thing.
Get
That's a
out of
concern
here.
too. Because I think a lot of people are thinking Putin wants to just conquer all of Europe or conquer Europe or something.
I know.
But
Zahan thinks that.
Peter Zahan does.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, maybe some part is like, yo, I'd be happy. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't. I mean, I don't like conquest. I don't like conquest. I don't think that's the answer. But like,
well, wait a
I
second
think
here.
that they need to
What
see
if it's good conquest? What if we're delivering like sex robots to everyone?
that is an argument. Not, the sex robots are no, but there's an argument that like there is a form of good conquest. Like if a dictator takes over an island and starts genociding the population, and
That's
we go in
bad.
and take it over.
I'm not in
And
favor
we're
of
like,
that.
okay, now, but then that's what we did with Cuba in the Spanish-American War in 1898. The Spanish Empire had control of Cuba, and the Americans were like, no more. And that's no, we're not going to let you have this. So they invaded, they attacked the Spanish fleet, they destroyed it or whatever. I don't know how they won. And then they liberated Cuba. Rather than conquest, they just freed it. And then Cuba became a communist hellhole, from what I have been told.
Yeah.
Had they conquered it, maybe it would be better as an American state. So I don't know. Maybe
you can't say that, but obviously I think there's some merit to that argument. People are actually making that argument because a lot of the places that the British colonialized or colonized, they gave them these institutions, these that were like a justice system, a legal system, all that stuff that did end up making those places better places to live. So
it's the yin yang, man. Like from the darkness comes the light. Like the United States, one of the most grandiose, amazing countries in the history of the planet, maybe the best, was a result of conquest.
of
like
course,
just genocide and conquest, eradication of the native population. The natives were. Yeah, sorry, Stitch, what were you saying?
Oh no, it's okay. Listen, I don't know if you know this, but I'm actually paid by the U.S. government.
yeah, Sitch is a Fed
and
so
the
watch out.
FBI to constantly defend and simp for them.
Okay.
And since I have to get my government paycheck,
Sitch, don't ruin it. Come on, we're having so much fun here.
oh no, it's funny because I looked up the Kennedy split up the CIA thing, and
Damn it!
there's a quote that's attributed to Kennedy. That the quote is a quote, Kennedy wanted to splinter the CIA in 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the wind. However, at least supposedly, this quote comes from an anonymous source that said it to the New York Times in 1963. So
Was it a
Wow.
talking plasma ball?
it might have been a talking plasma ball.
Inside his head, yeah.
Yes, maybe. But
Look,
I
there
wonder.
are some-
Wow, maybe
yeah.
that was propaganda. Who knows?
maybe. I don't know. I mean, I'm always skeptical,
Because like the
of phony
mob,
news
they
from the
were
New
all-
York Times.
the Kennedys were also like really hard on the mob, so it might have been the mob, like just the mob.
oh yeah,
Like,
totally.
right.
you know, Jack Ruby was like a mob. He was a mobster, and that's the guy that killed Lee Harvey Oswald before Oswald could talk. You know, when they had him just carrying him to jail, Jack Ruby walked up to him and killed him. And
Which
then
is very
Ruby
suspicious.
Ruby got let out of jail.
Yes.
Was
yes.
it Lyndon Johnson? I think let him out. I think.
I don't
maybe?
remember, but I mean, yeah,
Let him
the
out
whole
of jail.
the whole thing with the mob was very
Hank.
suspicious because they thought the mob seemed like they helped JFK win in some areas of the country, and then his brother obviously went very hard against the mob. So who
Yeah.
knows?
All
the
praise to
thing is,
Bobby Kennedy, man.
it's kind
That
of
was a
like
master.
I wonder because if it was the mob and the government, I mean, here's another thing. Maybe no one wants to accept this. Maybe they just fucking don't. Maybe the government literally just doesn't know who did it. Like
That's
we
what
want to
Lyndon
believe
Johnson-
they know. Maybe they just don't fucking know.
Like Lyndon Johnson, when they were doing what was it, Church Commission, the Warren Commission? I think it's
Right.
the Warren Commission. Lyndon Johnson was like, they were like, we didn't find any evidence. It was one shooter. The case is closed. And Lyndon Johnson was like, okay, it's done. I don't want to poke the hornet's nest because he thought that
Mhm.
if it came out that that there was some mafia or CIA, that it would unravel and destroy the nation. And he might have been right. So like,
Well, if it was
he
the
just went-
CIA, I think I agree. Like, if it was the CIA that did it, I would agree with you. Or if it was like a foreign government, maybe you don't want to start a war or something. Well, actually, no, I think,
Yeah,
but
of
if it was the
course.
mafia, I feel like if it was the mafia that did it, I'm not sure why they would hide it because you think they could get a lot of political leverage to basically wipe out the mafia using that as an excuse.
But they're getting campaign contributions from the mob, though.
Well, I guess, yeah, if they're in bed with the mafia, sure. But, somewhere along the way, someone's going to want to throw the mafia under the bus, you'd think.
I think you mentioned foreign governments. I think that's also something Lyndon was very afraid of, was that there was foreign governments involved, or maybe he even had evidence. I don't know if he had evidence, and that would have been foreign government involved with killing the president, total
Yeah.
world war. Like, no.
This is the
Well-
same thing that happened with the Tupac murder. Los
Yeah.
Angeles
Foreign
PD didn't want to
Right.
get involved because
Right.
Los Angeles PD was involved.
I mean, I don't think the Soviets would have done it. I mean, it's possible that there was some rogue person that did it, and they don't necessarily want to bring it up because then that would maybe spark a war with a government that wasn't really responsible.
Yeah, that's what sparked World War One. Was what's his name? The dude
Archduke Ferdinand getting
Yeah, who
assassinated.
who
right?
killed Ferdinand? Do you remember that guy's name?
Oh, not on my head.
Not Giuseppe. It was like three dudes tried to, and they basically catalyzed an entire world war. Three guys.
Gavrilo Princip.
Princip, yeah, Gavrilo Princip. He's
Yeah.
the dude that actually threw the grenade into the carriage and killed
Right.
Archduke and his wife. But three guys were on the road trying to kill the Archduke, and two of them like missed their shot or couldn't
Yep.
take the shot properly.
Yep.
That's
Well-
all. Yeah, that's a good point.
We're getting
Mhm.
close to an hour, and I want to be conscious of Ian's time. We have some really generous super chats here that are lavishing praise on Ian, though, so you should probably read them, Sitch.
There's positives and negatives. So
What do you mean? All I see is positive.
Lucen Lemonbuck for $10 says, "Hi Ian, sending love to Mr. Bukus." Mr. Bukus.
Yes, Buckus is doing well.
Is that
Thank
your
you.
cat? You have a cat or a
Yeah.
dog? Okay,
Yeah, it's a cat. He's
nice.
awesome.
I have a cat
Yeah.
too.
We treat him with stem cells, man, and it's just amazing to watch him
nice.
get back to health.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
Yeah.
When are we
How
gonna do
old's
that for
your cat?
people?
Probably 4.5. He was born like a street cat and
Oh,
was malnourished.
okay.
His mom was
I
probably
gotcha.
malnourished, so he had a enlarged heart and small kidneys. And they're like, he's done. Just
Mhm.
toss him. And we're like, no, we're taking him the distance, man.
Well, I thought,
That's
yeah,
some-
obviously that's a young cat. So
Yeah.
props to
and he
you for
wants to
saving
live.
his life. Yeah,
Yeah,
Right.
dude. Well, he's saving his own life, that's for sure. I'm just here with him, giving him heat.
that's awesome.
Uh,
He's
Mad
great.
Mad Rhetoric for €20 says, "Please tell Ian that the Schwarzschild proton is disproved through various experiments. I can go into detail if necessary, but I will not pay to do so. for fools pretending in my expertise. Wow.
I would
that's
love to
harsh.
see the. I
Mhm.
wouldn't be surprised if there was evidence that counters it. So send it to me on Twitter. The Schwarzschild proton is Nassim Harriman's paper explaining that the universe is equal density, and explaining that every proton is actually two protons revolving around each other at the speed of light, depositing information into the vacuum and then repositing the vacuum's information
Wow.
back to you. So like every proton everywhere in the universe is putting information into this substrata that's then doing a massive calculation and giving you a localized response, which is why you might think like, why am I affecting things that are far away? But also sometimes when scientific concepts are disproven, it just means that there's two different ways to look at the same thing. And it doesn't mean that either one of them are wrong. It just means that both of them are right. So, but I'm interested to see. So send it to me on Twitter
Cool.
What's your Twitter handle?
at Ian Crossland.
There you go. There you go, Matt. Yeah, send that to Ian and me. Link me. I'd be curious to see that too. CT for 5 Canadian says, no, it's fine, Ian. It won't affect the ecosystem. Mosquitoes aren't a main food source for anything. They're just snacks. We can kill them all.
Oh, what a world if that were true. You know,
Mosquitoes are the worst.
Yeah, I was in LA. I lived in LA for a long time, and I had this apartment. And for whatever reason, one night I had mosquitoes got into my apartment, and they were flying around. They were chill, and then one like got near me, and I killed it. And then other ones started attacking me and like trying to bite me. And I was like, wow, they're conscious. They have
killed his
consciousness.
mom.
So,
I don't know.
yeah, don't fuck with them.
Whenever I've had mosquitoes in the house, they're never chill. They always go after me. So I'm kill on sight with mosquitoes.
I knew a girl in the jungle in South America she does ayahuasca retreats, and she's very spiritual. She's like, I let them suck me. Just let them take. I am one with nature. But when she said I let them suck me, I was like, oh my god, because she's kind of Spanish.
Right. Probably should. Very poor choice of words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
Solo Doge for $2 wants to know if you have a take on the Destiny Sneeko drama.
I've kind of been following it. I don't know. I thought they were friends. Well, I knew they were at odds, and then they did some shows together, and then now they're at odds again. And Sneeko, who I don't even know his real name. I wish I knew his name. He said some stuff about Steven, who's Steven's wife, maybe Melania, and then Steven was like, well, your girlfriend's trash. Like, I don't know exactly what the beef is, so I can't really comment too much on it. But I love that they're having the conversation, and I think even if animosity pops out, that they're willing to talk and communicate is so key.
So the newest thing is Sneeko made some comment, because Sneeko always defends Andrew Tate. Destiny kind of attacked defending Andrew Tate. Sneeko responded by saying, your wife invited me to Sweden, implying to like have sex. And then Destiny's wife responded with a picture of a chair in a corner saying, I saved you your favorite spot. Implying that, he would watch them have sex. So it's pretty brutal on Twitter right now.
Did you see the Sneeko clip though, where he says Nick Fuentes is going to be the next president of the United States? I mean, I did see that,
and it's completely preposterous and stupid.
That's a little crazy.
Yeah, it was after, and it was made really crazy. It was literally after Nick gave his like get rid of the Jews speech. So
yeah,
I didn't see the speech. Oh, did you guys see the speech? I didn't see his speech.
Yeah, I did.
I don't know, man. This hate on Nick is really concerning, because like he's like a young jokester. He was telling me, or I think he was talking about on a show, maybe Alex or something. That like when he was a kid, he was like on 4chan doing whatever, and it's like, okay, everyone's getting triggered by Hitler, so I'm gonna make Hitler jokes because that triggers people and that's funny. And it's like a joke. And then people start following him. And they're like, yay, I also love you, and you're funny. But then there's some people that really truly believe it. And there's also this conversation about global power struggle, like global international banking cartels. That's a completely different conversation than Judaism. And it's not fair to conflate the two. Someone might have ancient ancestry of Jewishness, and they don't even believe in God anymore. I think they're not Jewish. Like, you need to believe in God to be Jewish. Like the idea that just because you don't like luck into it, like it's earned with your revel with God. Like it is, it is the first commandment of the I don't know if it's the Torah, but it's like this is what the first thing is. Like if this is God, there's no other.
Thou shalt not have any gods before me. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And like, if you don't truly believe that, then why would you call yourself Jewish? But then they're like culturally Jewish, which I think maybe you're actually culturally Israeli, because Judah, the son of Israel. And there's a there are people, I've talked to Jewish scholars that say there's a part of Judaism that believes what I'm talking about and makes that argument, but it's just an ongoing debate.
Well, it's interesting because like usually people in my experience that say that they're not religiously Jewish but they're culturally Jewish, they're usually Ashkenazi Jews who are very culturally different than Israeli Jews. So, but regarding Nick, like yeah, I don't know if Nick started off as just I'm sure like a lot of these people they start off on 4chan, they're just saying things that get people triggered. But I mean now whether he believes it or not, I mean he's definitely on the Jews are the fault of everything. If you go and listen to that speech, I mean he's basically saying that there's some conspiracy with Jews basically trying to keep the Christians down, and we need to, get rid of the Jews by some quote nonviolent means, some way we need to get rid of the Jews. So regardless of how he started, he's definitely on the white nationalist Jews are the fault of everything train.
I would say, Nick, if you're listening, Nick, or anyone that's listening, if you want to focus on the problem, focus on the patterns of behavior, not the individuals, the pattern of greed. Greed is a sin, man. Greed is not good. Greed can lead to the destruction and chaos. So if people are being greedy, that is the problem. It doesn't matter what ethnicity or what religion they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's a good message. Unfortunately, I think he and the gropers would say that's a cuck attitude, but I agree with you. So, it's sad. But anyway, J-Mac, our circuit father, thank you so much for the 50 gifted subs. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Jay.
Mr. M6 for 500 Kazarkazarks. Thank you. Says I wouldn't worry about the jobs taken by AI. There will be jobs we can't there will be jobs we can't even possibly conceive of now. Just imagine trying to explain to someone from 1975 the job of Instagram influencer. Even in complete abundance, time is still a scarce resource. Yeah, that's a great point that I was, trying to allude to. But yeah, we can't even perceive of or conceive of the new possible jobs and things that will open up due to technology.
I'm going to be a conspiracy theorist.
Right. There you go. Stark for $5 says, Adam, can you name the structures they found that exist outside of space and time, please?
So it's like a tetrahedrous or something like that. It's like straight out of the Inception movie. No, not Inception. Interstellar.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Purple Brain for €6 says, quote, evolved creatures will neither store nor process information in costly ways when they can use the structure of the environment. Clark, 1989.
Yeah, DNA. 64. They found DNA to be the ultimate data storage device, or one of them. I think we'll be storing data within our own DNA pretty soon. I mean, we already are, but like actual computized data.
That'd be cool. Yeah, that'd be very interesting. PC, thank you so much for the 50 gifted memberships, or 50 gifted $50. Thank you. Says, killing it with guests recently. Looking forward to the future interviews with Tim Pool, Sam Cedar, and Olay. I don't think Olay is going to come on the show. So
one of those is already lined up.
Grendel Vivat for 50 gifted memberships. Thank you so much. That's very generous. Max for $100. Thank you so much. Says, take my money. I love Ian. Seriously, the best guest out there. Far out there. Ian always gets my noggin jogging.
Yeah.
Max. Thanks. My brother's name is Max.
Oh, no.
Max Crossland. What's up, Max?
Sweet. I was going to ask you if Crossland was your real name or not.
Yeah, it is. I used to be like, is it like my ancestors crossed the land? And I thought that till I was like 30. And then I was like, I looked into it and I was like, no, it's where they crucified people.
Oh, no.
That's unfortunate.
Oh, no. Your ancestors were the people that put up the crucifixes, huh?
The Roman murderers? I don't know.
Man.
Oh, what a reversal. What a reversal.
Ouch.
There you go.
I can neither confirm nor deny. It's just what I heard.
Okay. Pabaxi for €20 says, might regret this. Fun fiction book recommends in regards to the AI and free will talking section, Charles Strauss's Accelerando and Peter Watts's Firefall. Okay.
Sounds like fiction.
There you go. Check it out. J-Mac, our circuit father for $50. Thank you so much. Says, my exposure to rampant government incompetence usually helps dissuade me from entertaining most unproven conspiracies. So what? You can fake the moon landing, but a bunch of third world terrorists in the mountains are giving you trouble? Come on, man. I kind of agree with that. Yeah.
I think the moon landing one's kind of interesting because I do think they shot some fake footage just in case to like embellish, but also that they went to the moon. but just
Right.
like to make sure they could propagandize
Interesting.
people and freak the Russians out.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that. I mean, it could be true, maybe, but I don't really have strong feelings on it one way or the other. Not gay Ben for $2. Our favorite super chatter says, "Hi Ian, I'm not gay."
I believe you. But what are you?
Well, judging by his
question.
avatar, he's a dog. So
Ian, do you have a political, do you call yourself left or right or conservative or
Nah.
progressive?
I
or
mean, it
anything?
depends on this. Sometimes I'm conservative in my beliefs. Sometimes I'm liberal in my beliefs. It just depends on the situation and the
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah, we call ourselves enlightened centrists. It's a bit tongue in cheek, obviously, but I couldn't call myself a progressive or a conservative. People are always trying to label us, but I mean,
There's a time and a place for everything, man. Well, maybe not everything.
Of
That's
course.
hyperbolic, but if it,
yeah,
flexibility and adaptability.
yeah. Yep. Progress and tradition work together.
Mhm.
Oh,
You need
yeah.
both.
I'm so glad that I'm working with people that would consider themselves conservative because I grew up so liberal, like with people that were like, if we help everybody, we help ourselves, help everybody. And it's like, well, sometimes you got to help yourself first. So I've kind of
Yep.
learned that lifestyle in the last 10 years of my life.
Yeah, and it seems like you've changed a bit on the institutions. You're a little more humble, a little more humility about these institutions and how they're built and how much investment there is in them over generations, even.
Yeah. Yeah. The system is when I think about changing the government, I think of a gigantic yacht, like a huge freighter that's moving and it takes so long to turn and there's so much momentum. And one guy at the wheel, the president, he's like, we're
Hey,
turning the whole, and everyone on board's like, yo, bro, this is like, you can't just do that. Like the whole thing
Yeah.
is going to move as a unit.
yeah, people will
Mhm.
rebel. So, is there anything you want to pitch or say before we wrap it up?
Yeah, at Ian Crossland, follow me if you want anywhere on the internet, Twitter, YouTube, Minds, really anywhere. And Timcast, company I'm working with, Tim Pool. We do Timcast IRL Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube at Timcast IRL. So you can watch the show there. This week, Seamus Coughlin of Freedom Tunes will be hosting all week because
Nice.
Tim's out of town. Yeah, it's super fun.
Yeah,
So we'll be there at 8 o'clock.
he's great. We actually did voices for him for a Freedom Tune recently, which
Oh,
was a lot of fun.
awesome.
Yeah, totally.
I'm about to do that on Wednesday.
Are
I'm
you?
so
Nice.
Yeah,
excited.
sweet, sweet.
Yeah.
It is fun. Yeah. So
Oh, he's great. What a great guy.
yeah,
brilliant
Seamus,
man.
Seamus is awesome. So yeah,
Seamus!
all right,
Spoon thief, I hear.
cool. Well, we're gonna.
Can neither confirm or deny.
Sitch, you want to say anything? We have another stream lined up. We're gonna review the iDubbbz situation. iDubbbz did a video with Olay.
Did you say you're going to talk about the situation?
Yes.
the
We're
situation.
going to talk about the Sitch situation. Yes. The iDubbbz was on Olay and did a struggle session. So
Yeah.
that'll be a lot of fun.
I only made it 15 minutes in before I got so triggered I had to like turn it off.
Common Cure for $10 says, ask Ian why he got addicted to oats.
I was
The
poor.
food?
Yeah, it was like 2010 and I was poor. So I
Yeah.
had oats. I would get like raisins and cinnamon. And I
Uh-huh.
started doing like spicing up my oats because it's a nice base to
Sure,
experiment
yeah.
with. And I was
Right.
learning how to cook and flavor. And I would get high as hell and just eat it for the taste. And I'd eat like bowl after bowl and just bloat my fucking brains out. So I went through an oat phase and I'm no longer in that oat phase.
Okay. I'm glad you've kicked the oat.
It took some humility.
Well, this has been a
And-
fantastic
Yes.
conversation. You know, if you ever want to come back and talk to us about anything, our door's always open.
I would love
so,
to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on.
All right.
Oh, Stitch.
Take care.
That's rock, man. Nice glasses. And that white cat in the background is beautiful.
Oh yeah. I don't usually do put my glasses on when I have guests, so
Nice.
let you see my real eyes.
Those glasses are nice too.
Yeah.
Yeah, your eyes are beautiful.
Why? Thank you.
Stitch, your avatar is amazing.
Thank you.
Sitch is gonna he's gonna actually do a face reveal someday, but
Someday.
That shit's gonna go viral.
I
we'll
hope
see
so.
what happens.
Yes. Anyways,
Just
thanks for coming.
you want to end the
Yeah.
stream, or we'll do the we'll do the
there's some more
super.
super chats that are not directly at you. So
Well, we can do them in the next stream, or do you want to?
no,
No,
so
we'll
right now.
we'll wrap them up. We'll say goodbye to you, Ian. Take care, man.
Okay.
Thanks for coming on.
I love you guys. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Bye, everyone.
Peace.
Bye.
Okay. Let me read the rest of super chats. Fist Fight Caleb for $2 says Ian looking like Steve Merchant. There you go. Alpha, not an Ian fan, says for $2 says this guy's a sociopath and a fraud. Wow. Seems like a very nice guy and very sincere to me.
Yeah, I've been following Ian on Twitter, and all of his tweets are like nice as can be.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Genie Penguin for $5 says, I mean, robots and AI certainly make it easier to reduce carbon and still maintaining a quality of life for the carbon that's left. That is true. Calvin Pafford for 2 months says, human labor is becoming less valued as the population stagnates, ? I guess my religion, most issues kind of just solve themselfism is proved right yet again. Calvin Pafford, CP24. There you go.
Wow.
You want to vote for CP24, everybody?
Nope.
No,
I'm gonna abstain from that vote.
You don't want to vote for
I'm
CP24?
voting against it. I'm voting for
okay.
wood chipper.
Wood chipper 24. Okay. Okay. Raphael Sporn, not Narsky, thanks so much for being 2 months Free Will Seeker with a Sitch kill me emoji. Thank you.
Sweet. I love that emoji.
So do I. Genie Penguin for $5 says simulation theory. Pfft. I believe in, quote, it's just a prank bro theory. One of us passed out at a party and our friends put us in a simulation. True. That is actually true.
Yes.
Actually true. Matthew Newman for $2 New Zealand dollars says, Adam, I messaged you. Also, New Zealand has wireless power lines. Really?
Sweet.
How does that work? What is the distance that they can transmit the energy wirelessly?
3 inches.
That sounds awesome. Well, it's got to be more than 3 inches.
I guess you're right.
Yeah. I mean, I have my, my quote wireless phone charger, but like it has to literally be touching.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
And it also has to be lined up just right. So I feel like it's actually more of a hassle than just a wire.
No way. I love the wireless charger.
I think I just got a cheap one. I should have got a better one. But underscore for $10 says the case against reality is good. 3 chapters in. The problem with it is that it has the meal in there, meat and potatoes and all. The garnish is lefty nonsense. Noam Chomsky and Shakespeare don't need quotes.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
Maybe it's been a while since I read that book, so I don't remember
Right.
any Noam Chomsky quotes, but
It's true. I'm not a Noam Chomsky fan. What's your first thought? Thank you so much for the $2 and the thumbs up emoji.
yeah, thumbs up to you.
Stug for $10 says, if you're referring to experiments using the quantum Hall effect, it looks like all they did was simulate 4 dimensions using this effect. Don't know all the details yet. Also, I think you mean Tesseract.
Yeah, it was a Tesseract in the movie, but it's something different. They call it something different.
Okay.
I guess I could look at my history and you could I'll put the video that I was watching in chat. How about that? How will that make you feel?
That would make me feel fine.
Good.
EHAF for $10 says, when AI takes my job, I'm going to be a pro lizard person, live under the airport, work by wearing my human disguise on public transportation, and blink sideways at people. True and based. There you go. C. Paffy for $5 says, so my press secretary has turned on me. Kidda, bring me ice. CSP 2024. Uh-oh. There's two Calvin Paffords apparently. Okay, interesting.
Oh no.
So there you go.
When 2 CPs go to war.
Who wins? Whoever wins, we lose, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll show the art after the end of the second stream. Asif Artsy for $5 says, preemptive scold, Adam, show the drawing I sent you. I don't care that you didn't get a talking part in the scene. I made you look happy, and that should be enough. Yes, Asif Artsy made
Definitely enough. It's a
hilarious
great
picture.
pick. Yeah.
But we'll show that after we watch iDubbbz's struggle session. So
Sweet.
you ready to switch over, everybody?
Yeah, let's do it.
Do you want to put a link
I set it
in the
to
chat?
what's already at the top, pinned to the top of the chat.
Okay.
If you're looking for the link to it. So click on that video and we'll move
And
over
will
there.
it auto send people there too if you click the thing?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Well, why don't we do that? Why don't we be smart?
Can you
Okay.
auto send people?
Let's find out.
Okay. Do it
Trying
up.
to the YouTube studio is not loading very quickly. Matthew Newman for $2 New Zealand says, Google it, a couple 100 meters over a valley. Wow, that's pretty cool. That's very cool, actually. I'm curious about that. Okay, let's see. I always forget where it is. Where's the thingy that lets you send?
Who cares?
Things
Just end the
over.
stream. Bye-bye.
No. Stop.
Too late. I already hit the
Adam,
button.
are you serious?
Of course.
I have it right here.
No, I didn't.
I have it right here.
I didn't hit the button.
Okay, good. I have it set up.
Well, my hand
redirect.
My little pointer thing is just over it.
Okay, it should
Waving.
redirect. It should redirect you guys. I think you have to click at the top of the screen.
2 hour stream?
To our next stream.
Really?
Yes, that's
Okay.
the main point of the redirect function, Adam, was not to send it to other channels, but to
I mean,
your
that's
own channel.
That's like a miracle.
There you go.
If
I know modern technology is amazing.
If that happens. All right.
See you in 1 second.